Greetings, everyone. There is a chance that once again this week we are not going to get to record due to scheduling conflicts. Rage's new job has flip-flopped his schedule on him a time or two. That has made it to where that we have not been able to get together in enough time to record and put out an episode. So just in case that happens again, I am going to do a little solo recording here, something along the lines of 15 minutes, maybe 20 tops. To talk about a couple of games that have been in the back of my, or in the bottom of my list that we probably won't get to. Our next episode is supposed to be a game club recording, and then after that, I'm not sure. So it might be a hot minute before I get to talk about these games, and I might forget about them. So I'm looking currently at my Steam, recently played on Steam, at my last few games. And I'm pulling one up here. First, by the name of Trolley Problem Inc. I got this game on sale end of April, 1st of May, and I played it to completion in one sitting. Took me about, according to Steam, I have 77 minutes of playtime, so including loading screens and some other things, probably an hour and 10 tops of actual playtime. So depending on the type of thing that you're into, the type of game that you like to play, this one might not be for you. It is what would I call this? An experimental kind of game. One of those games where that the quote-unquote Ludo narrative, the story that is being told through the gameplay, is a huge part of it, but then also it gets kind of weird. The Trolley Problem, in case any of you listening are not aware, is a sort of moral dilemma, philosophical dilemma about what to do if you find yourself in a very weird specific situation, being that there's a trolley moving on a set of tracks, and it is going to kill one person. Typically they're tied to the tracks or through some other kind of mechanism. Excuse me. Or sorry, it's going to kill 5 people. Typically they are tied to the tracks or some other kind of mechanism means that they are stuck and will be killed by the trolley. But you, as the only observer, have the opportunity to pull the lever, which will divert the trolley onto a different track, which kills one person. And so the idea is, do you accept the responsibility for the death of one person, or do you avoid any responsibility of interference, but 5 people die? It's one of those sort of entry-level ethics class or philosophy class questions about what our choices do, our actions, our inactions. It's not intended to be a realistic problem, but it's meant to get you thinking, to discuss the morality of action versus inaction, stuff along the lines of, do the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many, or vice versa, or whatever. Those kinds of things. There are other such questions that get more and more complex and complicated, but somebody thought, what if I take the idea of the trolley problem and make an entire video game about the trolley problem, which does various things as you go along. Some of this, given the experimental nature of it, I won't spoil. There's actually a somewhat complex and weird story that unfolds through your interacting with these trolley problem style situations, and in interacting with them and solving them, you can get several different outcomes, several achievements based on choices that you make that involve, getting certain outcomes. The questions get a little more complex, but the answer is always do or don't make a choice that sends, or do or don't make a choice that has some type of consequence. And sometimes you are not aware of the consequences, and sometimes the game, well, I guess that would be a spoiler. It's an interesting experiential game. There are some things in it that might feel a bit jump scary. I don't think that's the intention, but the first time I made a decision and sort of an image flashed up on screen, scared the shit out of me. The image itself I don't think was creepy, but the way in which it was employed felt very jump scary, and it kind of put me uneasy, or kind of made me feel uneasy, put me off a little bit on it. But if you can handle that, And if you're aware of that going in, knowing that certain choices that you make might result in an image being flashed up on screen that might be somewhat disturbing or scary to see. Like, the image that I saw wasn't disturbing, but some people said that they felt like some of the other images, some of which I saw, some of which I didn't, were uneasy. So there's no, to my knowledge, there's no like weird gore or weird sexually explicit kind of imagery. Just kind of, it's like, for like a shock factor kind of thing. I didn't like that, but I did like the story and find it interesting and find the experimental nature of it kind of fun and wacky. So, you know, if you can get it for a couple bucks, like I did on sale, I think it's worth it as just a sort of experiential type of game that you can play in a single sitting. Going to look at the store page, it is priced for $10.99, so $11 at full price. Genuinely, I don't think it's worth that much. Maybe if they make a sequel or do something else with the idea, perhaps they could expand this idea, perhaps incorporate some of those other types of more complex or interesting moral dilemma type things, or expand out in the types of philosophy and things that they engage with. But like it really, I think it gets everything that you can out of the concept of build an entire video game around the trolley problem. So, I kind of wish I could say more, but I really don't want to spoil it. So if you're interested in knowing more, but not necessarily interested in playing the game, feel free to send me, post about it in Discord, send some messages to me or something. And then we can get into it. I don't think watching this game on YouTube, I mean, you could watch it on YouTube. I'm sure there's some people who've put some playthroughs up and watch it and see some of the different outcomes from the choices that can be made. But because of some of the things that it does from the experiential, kind of experimental side, watching it and then trying to play through it, I don't think that would work as well. So that's the first one. Then moving on to another game that I have played recently. Oh, I thought I have to sneeze. I did sneeze. Doing this by myself, I can just hit pause on the recording and I don't have to edit out a sneeze or hope that Craig edited out my sneeze for me because it went over the noise threshold. Okay, so next on my list of games that I have played, Tom Clancy's End War. This is a very, well, by today's standards, this is a classic Tom Clancy game. It is a real-time strategy game that is entirely voice-controlled. You are playing in the near future, which is actually pretty close to the current future, the present day, in a sort of alternate world scenario where the United States, Europe, and Russia are not getting along and wind up getting into a war with one another. Sometimes I feel like these people are clairvoyant. It's not, explicitly as it has played out in the real world, of course, but it's just like freaky being in the modern era, seeing that like the United States is disliked by Europe for really sort of hawkish, ridiculous decisions, and that Russia has started, a war in Europe, and rather than the United States and the European Union joining forces immediately to deal with the issue as per the NATO alliance, instead they wind up fighting each other also. But as for gameplay, it's a very interesting kind of novel idea. Takes the idea of like fully voice controlled units and puts it to work in a way that actually does work. One of the issues with these types of concepts, these weird sort of proof of concept games, is that they tend to like be kind of gimmicky, and you can play the game without using voice controls. I remember playing this originally back in like 2009 when it released on the Xbox, and so using like my headset and whatnot, and I think because of the quality of the Xbox headset, it was not as responsive as I wished it would have been. So half the time I was using the manual controls anyways. I figured out which commands that it got from my voice pretty easily and repeatably, and would use those because it was relatively quick. Unit, Bravo, attack location or attack point Delta, or calling all units, defend point Charlie, or something like that. And there's a whole list of voice commands you can use. With my modern day PC microphone, it seems to get the voice commands a lot better, and I don't think that any optimization was done in the process. But it's just a solid game. There's a campaign mode that you can play that serves as an extended tutorial. You can play sort of skirmish modes, and there's a world conquest mode. The online mode is dead. I don't know if it's like, because everything is like global servers, like those servers are long dead. I would imagine. I didn't look to see if there was any kind of third party project to revive them or not. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Some kind of mod or something you can do that will get you back into the global concept, global conflict servers, for whichever side that you wanted to fight for. But the campaign and the skirmish mode alone is enough to keep you tied over for 15, 20 hours maybe. So I've owned this game for a long time, and on the I actually just went to go look at the store page to see how much it was. On the game store page, it says from January 25th 2024, multiplayer and online features will no longer be available for this product. So it's definitely dead. I didn't get connected to anything when I played the game, so that was my assumption, but that is confirmed. Regardless, there's still the single player, there's the skirmish mode, and then you can play sort of the endless war mode in the as a single player, just against the AI. Each faction, the United States, the European Union, and Russia individually have different strengths and weaknesses. They each have a couple of unique units, but it all feels within the realm of quote unquote near future modern combat. So it's a pretty solid title. It's $10. I don't know if it's worth $10 to you or not. I feel like it's worth $10. The gimmick works pretty well. It's pretty solid mechanic wise, and it's definitely playable. One issue that it does have, I guess, that I didn't really think about at first because the nature of how this game is played, it is locked to 30 frames a second. There might be a way to unlock it, or a mod or something for it. I haven't invested a ton of time into this game yet. I'm several missions into the campaign and have done a skirmish or two. And I keep saying, well, I'm going to go back and I'm going to play some more, and I haven't yet. So, I don't know. Maybe that tells you a little bit about it. Actually, I'm going to look at the Steam discussion page real quick and see if there's any mod support. Oh yeah, one of the top posts, Modding End War. Has anyone figured out how to mod this game? This is from 2019, was when it was originally posted. People are saying it's very moddable. Don't know. Also, one of the top posts is people asking about how to remove the 30 frames per second cap. And for some reason that is not opening. Yeah, there's a mod that someone has got to double it to up the cap to 60 frames a second. Apparently they're saying that going above that messes with certain timings in the game. So 60 FPS cap. Limitation of certain older games have issues with that too. Older versions of Skyrim, actually, like, the physics break the fuck out if you take it over 60 frames per second without certain mods. So yeah, Tom Clancy's In War. Interesting little single player experience. The gimmick of the voice commands is avoidable, but if you're not going to use voice control for the game, there are way better real-time strategy games out there. Like, voice commands is where it's at for this game. Like, if you don't kind of buy into that premise, you'd be better off playing another real-time strategy game. But, I think it's interesting and a neat and fun little game. And then let's see. Do I want to do more? I have also been playing 3 other games that I'm going to rattle off here Demon X. I'm not sure if it's Demon or Damon X Machina, and Armored Core 6. Damon X Machina feels like an anime or an animu spiritual successor to Armored Core, given when it released in 2019 or 2020. Whereas Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is, of course, the official next Armored Core game, or most recent official Armored Core game, releasing last year. I do think I want to talk about those back-to-back in a main episode, kind of compare and contrast some things, and get into some deeper kind of feelings that I have, maybe have raged about some stuff off of. So I think, I'll kind of drop those here. Another game I've been playing a lot, I've played 54 hours of this game, is Pathfinder Kingmaker. Probably the best tabletop RPG, computerized tabletop RPG I have played, excluding Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, this game came out in 2018 or 2019, so it obviously it predates Baldur's Gate 3, but it is very good and faithful to Pathfinder. If any of you have ever played Pathfinder or Starfinder, which is literally space Pathfinders made by the same people and everything, it's very true to that. It does have a real-time mode, but I mean, play it in turn-based mode, and you have got, the tabletop experience. It's a very good game with very deep, in-depth mechanics, both in terms of you as a player and building your player characters. But it's called Kingmaker because you are also building up a kingdom. The first act of the game, or the first story chapter of the game, you're completing a large quest, and the completion of this quest gives you your own barony, which you are in control of and work to expand for the rest of the game. And I'm only in the second chapter, and I'm fucking 54 hours in. I'm not going for a crazy 100% completion run. I am trying to sort of hit the level cap, which is level 20. So I am trying to complete all of sort of the major quests, but I'm not hardcore exploring every area. There's some very deep, in-depth, choice mechanics and mechanics around your party, both in terms of building them up and sort of team building, synergistic mechanics. I really want to get through this game. I'm thinking about trying to push through it pretty hard before July, which is when I'm taking some vacation time at my in-person clinic that I'm working at. I'm trying to use up all the rest of my vacation time and my sick days and everything before I quit, because I am in the process of opening my own clinic now. But so I'm taking some vacation time in July, and I would love to have beaten this game by then so that I can play its sequel, Pathfinder. What is it? Let me go back to the Steam store page. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, which apparently has some kingdom management mechanics, and is it as well? My understanding is that Wrath of the Righteous is Kingmaker, but more and better. And then after that, the Warhammer 40k tabletop game, which is Rogue Trader, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. That is actually also made by the same developers who made this game, and it came out in either 2023 or 2024. And I very much would also like to play Rogue Trader, and Rogue Trader currently is on Game Pass. I don't know if I will make it to there or not, but I'm going to do my best before it leaves Game Pass. But either way, it is I want to get through those games. So I'm hoping I can play through Pathfinder Kingmaker, and once I beat it, talk about it on sort of a main episode, and then get to Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous on my vacation time, and then be able to talk about that end of July, maybe beginning of August, somewhere in there. So we'll see. And then also with my new PC, my PC upgrade, I've been replaying some games just to see how different or better they play. Some games that have been limitations, or that had limitations. BattleTech was one of them. Even in 2018, BattleTech was, it was playable on my machine, but something about that game my PC always struggled to even get 60 frames anywhere that was, more complex. And the more mods and stuff you throw at it, the worse that problem gets with BattleTech. And, aside from city maps, I can run 180 frames a second all the time, which I've got my new monitors that are 180 hertz. But yeah, I've got some other stuff. I'll probably talk about that and the next time we do an episode that has normal game discussions in it. But very pleased with my upgrade path. When you stick to 1080, like I think I mentioned this when I talked about my PC build, I am not really interested in going past 1080. Probably at some point I will. I don't know if 1080p will ever disappear. Like, yes, games can look better. I mean, games do look better in 2K or 4K. I've seen some 8K displays. Like, games can look ridiculously amazing. But I don't know if anything above 1080 will ever become standard. And, I know some of you, work in the tech industry. Maybe you'd have more insight into this than I do. But, I just can't imagine, like, anything... Like, I can't imagine 1080 not being a standard for the foreseeable future, if not forever. Because there's no benefit to going above 1080 for, like, normal, everyday office kind of work and productivity. And so I would much rather have a 1080p display at a much higher refresh rate than, playing something in 1440 or 4K or 2K or 8K or whatever. And so even though, I've got an RTX 3070 with, it's an 8 gigabyte card, like it would be a disaster, like to try to do, just because I would run into issues with the VRAM with trying to play 4K games. Probably would do okay in 1440p based off of some benchmark charts I've seen. I'd probably wind up in the same situation where I was in with my 1070 trying to play at, 10 games at 1080, like, fine up to 60 hertz. Some games could do, more, 100, 120 maybe on less demanding or older titles, but, at a certain point, it just can't do it anymore. But, my RTX 3070 has got no problem pushing any game I've thrown at it at 180 hertz. I want to play some stuff that has caused issues in the past, like Factorio, like whenever you get some fucking crazy factory going on Factorio or Satisfactory, or, let's see, let me look at my list here. It has struggled, my old machine struggled sometimes with MechWarrior 5. I've been wanting to play MechWarrior 5 Clans, and I knew my old machine would just melt trying to play MechWarrior 5 Clans. I haven't played War on the Sea yet since I got this machine. War on the Sea or Victory at Sea Atlantic on this new machine, but because of like whether it's inefficiencies or like the complexities of the ocean graphics, like it would just my 1070 would just fall apart in like battle scenes. Let's see, what's some other stuff? The Sims really like had issues. Sims 3 and Sims 4 would really have issues. I think those are the games, not my machine. I think The Sims is a fucking buggy, bogged down, old fucking mess. But, it kind of is what it is. Project Zomboid would sometimes run into issues. And it could be CPU bound as well. Like, I could have been CPU bound, even though my 4070 90K was a fucking badass CPU, 12 years ago. Like, it's 12 years old, so a new CPU might also help with some of those issues. But all of those things, right, they all take time. You've got to get 30 or 40 hours into a Satisfactory playthrough. And if I'm going to start, I haven't played Satisfactory since November of last year, since we did it for Game Club. Like, if I'm going to start, I'm going to start over. I have already forgotten everything that I was building and doing, and I need to refresh my mods. Like, X4, that's a game that I'm just like waiting. Maybe I'd do that for my fucking vacation. X4 is a game that I want to play to see, like, just throw fucking everything in the kitchen sink at this machine. That X4 definitely was like CPU bound, or at least partially CPU bound, because the more shit you throw at that game, the more it's tracking in the background all the time. Obviously, like, the more that your CPU is going to become the bottleneck issue for that game. So, but I had, 40 mods, 50 mods for X4. I'd have to go through and check all of that. I don't remember where I was or what I was fucking doing. Am I saved? Like, so I got to start over again. And there's a new expansion for X4. So it's like, there are a whole bunch of games that I want to like throw my new horsepower at and see what it does, but I haven't had the time yet. So, yeah. Looking at the recording, I was like, yeah, I'll talk for 15 minutes, maybe 20. I'm at 26 minutes and some change right now. Obviously, this will get cut down in editing. I had a couple of pauses. I stopped to check something here or there looking at the store. That'll get cut out. So we're looking at probably 20 minutes of not quite Franken content, but it's going to get the Franken content, like, you know, and everything for it. Thanks for coming to my game talk, my game TED Talk. I hope all of you have a lovely day, a lovely evening. If we're able to get our scheduling stuff resolved, then, you know, you'll get this at some point. But if we don't get our scheduling stuff resolved, this will be the episode for Friday, June the 6th. I wish all of you a happy June or July or whenever you hear this. I love you all very much. Stay safe out there.